Hello viewers at home, my name is Bukola Oriola and this is Imprisoned Show, a show set out to educate the public about human trafficking. Human trafficking is the modern day slavery claiming the lives of our loved ones across the world, and it is very important for us to talk about these issues so that we can all find a solution to preventing our loved ones from becoming victims of human trafficking. And today we have an important personality in the studio who has traveled out of the US to India to work with victims of human trafficking. She will be telling us more about that tonight. And the person is Siri Nestingen. Nice to meet you and welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
In India recently to help victims of human trafficking.
I returned in February. I was there for about 3 months.
Wow. And could you give us a little bit of information about what you went there to do and how you got connected with the organization, Freedom Femme, right?
That is right. I learned about it through a friend. I've been very interested for quite a while about sex trafficking and human trafficking, being that it is one of the worst crimes that's happening on the planet. So it was something that's really tugged at my heart, something I'm very interested in. And through a friend, I learned about Freedom Firm. They allow 3-month volunteers to come over and help. So I sent in my application in about August and heard back from them in October, and they said that I could come and stay there for 3 months and work with girls. So I was very excited and very honored for the privilege to be able to do that.
And while you went to India, how many girls did you work with?
Freedom Firm is a very small organization, so I worked with only 3 girls. By the time I left, 2 new girls had just come. They sometimes partner with an organization called IJM, and so IJM rescues the girls, and then they set the girls up through the government there to help prosecute the people that have had them in sex trafficking. And then once they're done with that, then they have choices to kind of go to what halfway houses or programming that could help them to get restored. So Freedom Firm is one of those organizations. And so it's also a Christian organization, and in India there's multiple religions. So the girls have to know that if they come, it is part of the curriculum, and what they'll be learning is biblical theologies through the Christian perspective. So the girls sign up for that if they choose to, and then they come, and then it's an 18-month program that they stay in for.
So this program is like similar to transitional housing like we have here in the United States. Is that correct?
I would say yes, it is. They're given a house that they all live in together. They have a night mother that watches them at night. Then during the day, in the mornings, they have school at the same building that they work. So they'll start off with learning English, learning Hindi, because those are the 2 main languages in India. Because India is so diverse, there's so many different languages that they're trying to give the girls a better opportunity. If they know English and Hindi, then they're more able to get jobs in other places. And then they'll get caught up on their math, on writing, those kind of things, depending on where the girls were put into sex trafficking, at what age. They'll try to meet them where their education is. They'll do that for a couple hours, and then they'll begin work in the workshop where they make jewelry.
Okay, these girls, how old were they?
One of them I know was 14 when she was sold into sex trafficking. Another one was around a similar age, and then they were rescued around 18, 19. So when I met them, they were between the ages of 18 and 20. I think the oldest was 22.
And they have to put them through school for 18 months?
Yeah.
And that's it?
I'm sorry, what?
And that's it?
Yeah. Well, they will. They have a teacher there at the organization, so they don't actually go into the school systems, because in India the school systems are set up on a British school system, so it's a little bit different how you get into school and when you come out of it. And because the girls are coming from different states inside of India, there's also regulations and other things that come around that. So it just really depends. As well, the girls come from different religious backgrounds, Muslim, Hindu, so it depends on where they were educated and how long their families allowed them to be educated. So just to kind of cut through all of that, they have a teacher there on staff, and they learn just with her in the mornings.
Okay, so the kind of school they're giving to the girls is not like the formal education of going into classroom, but giving them a tool to use for themselves to better their lives.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And they learn about jewelry. Is that the only form of art they are learning in the school, or is there the other form of art apart from the jewelry?
That specifically they work most of the time on, but they also are getting computer classes. They get a lot of social development classes. There is a developmentally disabled community housing also in the same community. And so they go a lot to work with the kids. One of the girls I know that is very near and dear to my heart loves working with kids, and it's a passion of hers, and so they're really good about plugging her into that to get her. It kind of feeds her, heals her, helps her to kind of stay stabilized. And so they give her a lot of opportunities to work in that. And they just do a lot of community work as well to make sure that the girls, because there's such a stigma to being a sex trafficking victim, to get them back, as you would know, to get them back into society and know that they can have a life again, I think is also a huge education tool that they really try to push on.
And then, excuse me, these girls, apart from this kind of education they're giving to them, is there any kind of mental health support for those girls?
They do have social workers that are attached to each girl that they work with, and then as situations and issues come up, they do deal with it. So we did have a girl at the end before I was leaving that we did have or believe could potentially have some psychological damage. So she was up for an assessment to be screened. They don't have anything on staff because it's a very small organization, but they do reach out into the community. They allow counseling for the girls if they need it. They have pastoral counseling for them if they need it. They have prayer for them if they need it. And then psychologists. But again, that's different in India, how psychologists and counseling works, that sometimes is seen as a taboo and sometimes isn't. It just depends on where you're at. So, yeah, so they use it when they can as an opportunity. I also know that the girls do, 2 of them have HIV. So they brought a nurse in to teach about that, to teach the girls about that. They really try to use the organizations that they have to educate themselves as well as the girls as much as possible so that everyone is having a positive impact on what these girls are dealing with every day.
HIV. Like those girls living with HIV right now, apart from bringing in a nurse to educate them, what kind of other support are they giving specifically to these girls?
Well, I know one of the girls at the very end, when I left, again, she's one that's very special to me, has a great heart, and she's actually doesn't, that I know of, have family, and she has HIV/AIDS, and before we left, found out that she needs to go on medication that she'll have to be on for the rest of her life. In order to kind of keep the HIV from turning into full-blown AIDS. So she was in the clinic about a week after I left for 5 days. So they could observe her because she was having quite a hard time with that idea. So the staff that I know and understand came around her very close to kind of give her the support that they needed. They then again brought a nurse in to talk to her. They have counseling outside that they're trying to help her get plugged into so that she can find out more about it, and then support systems. But again, it's hard because after 18 months, which her time I believe is up in like 6 to 7 months, she can kind of go wherever she wants. There's no written obligation that she has to stay with Freedom Firm. Because she is 20 years old, she can kind of make her own decisions. And hopefully she'll make the decision to find a support group. But again, that's a different way, or as an American, I would say, I didn't see in that place where there was a huge support system for HIV. But I do know that the government is trying to do a lot to help. I know that they do give, from my understanding, free HIV and medication to people who do have AIDS. And there are a growing number of organizations that are trying to find support. Just in the town that I was in, it was a little bit smaller than the major populated towns.
And which town was that?
It's called Uti.
Okay.
And it's in the state of Tamil Nadu, which is in the southern part of India.
And there, do they speak Hindi?
No, they speak Tamil, which is, and then some people speak Hindi, but in Uti alone, most of the churches in the other in the market, most people speak Tamil, which the girls
the local
don't.
Dialect. That's their local dialect.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's go back to the jewelry making to helping these girls move forward with their lives and finding something to do. The jewelries they make, do they sell them in there, or they have to take it to the market for the girls, or do the girls have to take it to the market by themselves? Or how do they sell the jewelries for the girls to, because I assume the girls are getting income from that,
Yes.
correct?
Yep. Yep. So how Ruhama works, how Ruhama Designs work, is that they, the girls actually sell the jewelry online, and it's sold here in the United States as well as in Great Britain. So none of it's really sold unless you come to the office space, and then it's sold there in the office space. But there's no real setup for the girls to sell it. If they have opportunities, like there was a school that was having a craft sale, and then we went there and sold some jewelry over Christmas break, but not really set up inside the actual town, or even really in India that I know of. They might very well be, but I didn't see that part of it. I just saw more of taking pictures. I helped take pictures. The girls learn how to take pictures, upload them to the computer, and then put that on the website, and then it's sold overseas. They had a lot of parties. I know that Freedom Firm did over Christmas time, and that's where they raise a predominant amount of their money, is to sell the Ruhama designs. And that's just done through parties where they try to raise awareness and then also sell the jewelry.
So the online market, is this really bringing anything in for them?
I believe that it is. It covers, I would say, their costs, and then as well, Freedom Firm then brings in donations to as well, supplement income and help with all that stuff. I wouldn't know the exact breakdown on percentage-wise of what Ruhama's covering and what Freedom Firm is, but together they're making up quite a substantial ability to pay the girls a living wage. They get raises, and then all their housing and food and everything is taken care of.
Okay. So some of these girls, do they have kids yet or no?
No, I know one lost her baby when it was in the womb still, but other than that, no, the girls that I know of, they don't have any children. I know that they've had in the past girls who did have children in the program.
Okay, and those girls that are there, are they able to connect back with their families or no?
It depends on the family. So one of the girls that I said that was 22 that was going to get some psychological assessment, right before that happened, actually her family had not known where she was for 2 years. And then they just called a number that she happened to remember, and it ended up being her dad's phone number, and they immediately came to get her. And so she comes from an extremely wealthy family, and they had been looking for her for 2.5 years and not heard anything. So I heard about it last week, and it was a very exciting reunion. Everyone was so happy. She's so happy to be back home, and very excited. But on the other side, there's girls who don't have families. There's girls who have gone home and been kicked out, or they've gone home and they were sold by their family, so they don't want to return. So some of the girls have gone back just into the city to work. So it really depends on the girl. It depends on the religious background that the girls are coming from, and then it depends on if they want to go back or not.
And then talking about rich families and not so rich families. So from the experience of a girl coming from a wealthy home, would you say that human trafficking can happen to anybody regardless of, you know, their financial backgrounds?
Yes. I would say from the little bit that I had experience with and the stories that the girls did share with me and the information I got, and again, that's very limited, but in that experience, I was able to hear and see and meet girls who come from really wealthy backgrounds, come from well-educated backgrounds, and they were kidnapped. One on the way to school, another one, I don't know the exact details, but I know that she was kidnapped and then sold into sex trafficking, where there was another younger girl who comes from a low income, and they just sold her into sex trafficking. So it really doesn't matter, the person. There's no really respecters of persons when it comes to sex trafficking, is what I've learned, is that they'll sell anybody or kidnap anybody. It doesn't really matter your educational background or where you're from.
And then for some of those girls who are still out there in the sex slavery industry, what is Freedom Femme doing to get those girls rescued? Because Freedom Femme says that its strategy is to rescue, restore, and then provide justice.
Yes.
So what efforts have they been making apart from giving transitional home to those that have been rescued, you know, by other organizations? What are they doing by themselves to rescue some of those girls that are still out there?
Currently, right now, I know that, well, the beginning of Freedom Firm started with Greg Malstead and his wife, Mala. Greg has worked for International Justice Mission, and he started one of the first bases for IJM inside of India. And then from that, he started Freedom Firm. So he still partners with IJM, and they do a lot of the rescuing, a huge percentage. And actually, IJM just got a huge grant, I believe it was from Google, like in the millions,
Yeah, we talked about that in our last episode. Most of the money actually went to the
India.
Yes.
Yeah. Very exciting. So it was kind of exciting because that was a direct link. Not that it will necessarily affect Freedom Firm, but it's an organization that is closely tied to Freedom Firm. So IGM rescues the girls. While I was there, Greg actually left to go help on some raids. So he went into the towns. I don't remember all of the names, but he did go to the towns to help in the raids that they do to get the girls. So if somebody sees on what they believe is an underage girl, then they alert the police, and then they'll go in with a raid team as soon as possible, as quick as possible, and they'll break down the doors and then rescue the girls out.
So the police is actually working closely with these organizations to rescue girls in India?
Yes, and it's, again, it depends on the town or the city that you're in, and it depends on the organization, but from what I understand, it is getting better. Partly, I think, because of internal pressures as well as international pressure. And I think that's on every country that I've kind of looked into, even here in the United States from the training I did in Not for Sale. I learned a little bit from the police perspective on that. Because we're gaining more awareness and because there's more international pressure now on it, they're shaping up to not be so corrupt. Even though it's still there, we haven't lost it yet, but they're working on it, and so, and sometimes they're successful, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are tipped off. Greg did go for one time, and they were tipped off. So when they went to raid, the girls were gone.
Okay, for those victims who are trafficked by family members, which in a situation whereby, you know, once the victim has been rescued, you can't send the victim back to her family. What would be your word for families, you know, to prevent trafficking one another?
Yeah. I think one thing that I love about India is that its greatest respected institution is family. So it's kind of sad to see it happen in the families. But I think because there's such a respect for it, there's a lot of shame that goes with it. And there's a lot of frustration around the identity that can have on family, that you have a girl who's in sex trafficking or that happened. And so I would say to families that isn't the identity of family. The identity of family is that you can accept and love anybody in your family, no matter what has happened to them, and that a victim is a victim. That there was no choice in any of this. And when I got the privilege and the honor to sit down with these girls and listen to their stories and hear what they're walking through, to just remember that this wasn't their choice. And that even though I may not be blood family, but that I'm family, so that anybody who comes into their life, to just encourage them that we can stand with them and we can acknowledge them and love them just by hearing their stories or just standing with them. I just think of one of the young ladies who did not speak, we didn't speak any of the same language. But we went on this really long walk one day because she was so frustrated and angry about some situations. And I didn't say a word to her. And as you can tell, I'm a talker. But we had the greatest relationship after that. It meant so much to her that I would just walk with her. And I think that's what I would encourage families, to walk with these women and these young men who are coming out of this, that they're still part of your family. They still matter. They still have a voice. And what they're going through, they need support. They need a lot of support.
Yeah, so they need support, which is true. But before that even happens, you know, how can it be prevented such that family members, like there was a woman, Maya, who was one of the victims rescued by Freedom Fame. She was trafficked by her brother. She was sold into sex slavery by her brother. You know, in that kind of situation, what makes family members traffic one another, and what can be done to prevent such?
It's a great question. That's a huge question. I don't know if I have the right answer, but just because I think that to empower those who have been trafficked, they have the answer. I think to be in a situation like Maya and to see her brother do that to her, I would be encouraged to hear her story more and to get her to a platform that she has the opportunity to share what happened. Because, I mean, I could come up with maybe a nice worded answer, but I don't think that that might be the most effective answer. I think that those who have been trafficked, those who have maybe even trafficked their own loved ones, to ask them. I mean, I think that the dialogue has to be open instead of always pushing. If a family member, obviously they have a conscience. I don't think that every single person who's done human trafficking doesn't have a heart or that they're so dark, because it is I mean, it's 27 million victims. That we can't assume that every person that is selling off people doesn't have a conscience. So my desire would be, can we sit down and have a conversation? Why are you doing this? And from the little bit that I've seen in documentaries and filming, when they have asked human trafficking people, it comes down to the issue of poverty and how do I get, this is now a commodity. A person has turned into a commodity. And so how do I can separate it. What?
Like, how do I exploit the
right.
other person?
How do I exploit that? And so the only way I think that we could find an answer is to ask the very people who have been victims of it. And
okay. And, you know, there is the issue of stigma with victims and even survivors, to the point that there are so many survivors that will not come out to speak. Yeah. They can't put their face to their story. Yeah. And I think that also is making it hard to be able to open the eyes of the public more. But you can't blame those survivors who don't want to come out and speak because of public stigma. So what can we do about public stigma so that survivors can come out and share their stories to help others?
Well, and I think that's where I can play a part, where to raise the awareness. That's why, like, it's exciting that I could come on your show, is because the more that this can be a conversation and that this can be a part, because this is a part of the victim's everyday life. And it may not be something that they want to talk about all the time. I didn't hear all of the testimonies of the girls because they don't want to talk about it all the time. They just want to be young ladies who have struggles and frustrations that are normal. So I just left it to them. Whenever they wanted to discuss it, then I would hear it. But other than that, I just left it alone. And I think it's part of just letting people be normal, number one, and then number two, just those of us who are really passionate about it, to share it with as many people as possible so that we can create a buffer zone for those who don't feel safe enough to come out, and not add pressure that they have to be the only voice in it, that they have to be the only person fighting for it. But when we get the opportunity to ask them, what was it like? What can we do to help? And maybe that's just in the quiet of somebody's home, or maybe that's at a more public setting like the one that we're at right now. And again, like for my girls, I don't think that they will ever be in the public about it, but I carry their stories with me for the rest of my life. And I carry them with me for the rest of my life. And it's my honor and it's my privilege and my duty, I think, to share that.
And do you think that will help to stop the stigma?
I think that it will. I think because the more people get educated about it, it's such an appalling issue. So I stopped in to drop off a deposit at my bank, and they asked me what I was doing. They saw that I was in India, and they asked me what I was doing, and I was sharing. And the woman got tears in her eyes and then asked, how do I find out more information about it? So I gave her a bunch of information and told her about your show. And so I think that and I think that will add to lessening the stigma, because I think in the United States the biggest thing that we are up against is the belief that it doesn't happen here. That it's not real here, but it's so real here. I think that we just have the laws and systems that are able to kind of hide it a little bit better. Or we have I have to say, an ideology that it would only happen over there in those poorer countries. But it's actually happening everywhere. So I think the more that we raise awareness, the more that we make it an acknowledgement that it could be in your household. So where you're sitting and watching CNN, it could be in your neighborhood. I think that that lessens the stigma, because when we see it as a human issue and not those people, then I think it allows for people to be human in the midst of being a victim.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just want you to like give us an idea of what you are doing right now that you are back. You have spent, you know, the 3 months working hard and working one-on-one with victims over there. Now you are back here. So what is next?
If I knew the answer to that. Yeah, my hope and my prayer is that I just continue to keep raising awareness. Specifically, I feel like when I came back, I did 2 weeks training in Not for Sale in California, which was great before I left to go to India, and then have really kept up on the A21 campaign and stuff like that. And I feel like when I began this journey a couple years ago, there wasn't a lot of awareness, but I feel like it's really picking up. And so I feel like my best place to be right now is to just help behind the scenes. How can I get it more like talk to the bank teller? When I got my hair cut at Aveda Institute, the hairstylist on the floor asked me what I was doing, and I told him, and he said, can you get me more information? So just to continue really saturating the systems with as much information as possible. I'm fortunate enough to be able to be in a lot of different circles at my church and my community and stuff like that. So to just continue to help support in whatever's going on. I know there's a faith-based initiative here through Not for Sale, helping get that information out. Right now I'm looking at going to school, starting my master's in the fall, Master's of Divinity, and then, but from there I really want, kind of where the quest began is, where is the church in this? I think of the time when I first started at the U of M, I took biblical studies, and I kind of saw the Holocaust, and I just wondered, where is the church? Why are 2 million people dying based on something that they were born into, being a Jew for a lot of them? So that question kind of rekindled in my life a couple years ago, and that's where I started this journey with sex trafficking. And so it's kind of on my journey is, where was the church? Where is the church? What are we doing in the midst of one of the greatest and most horrific things on the planet? Why aren't we the loudest voice? Why aren't we the ones saying redemption is now for these young women specifically, as well as young men? And so I hope as I continue this journey that I'll find more answers to that, or at least help and be a voice in the restoration of that.
So are you calling the church to action?
I am. I think that it's extremely important. I think that we have a platform, we have funding. Churches are on every block. Human trafficking is happening on every block. Communities are it's happening in every community. There's a church in every community. There's a leader in every community that's connected to that community, specifically through churches. So no matter how you paint the picture, we're connected. And we have a responsibility, I believe, to rise up and to stand against this and say that this is not okay in our generation, this is not okay in our children's generation, and this is not okay anywhere in the world, because people are valued. If we as Christians say that we value humanity, this is a perfect opportunity to say that we mean it, because this is one of the instances, as you probably know better than anybody, that your identity is destroyed and your worth is taken away from you. And if the church is everything that it says that it is and believes in what it says it believes in, then we are to help restore that and give people back hope and the belief that they are valued and that they matter in society. And I think that this is one of those situations that we have an awesome opportunity to show the love of God through this specific situation. So, and again, I think that comes through raising awareness. I know that not everyone's going to give up 3 months of their life and go overseas, but I think that through just getting educated, more educated, continually giving, if you can provide finances to whatever organization you believe in, I know that there's specific churches that have information that's coming out. about, I know Christina Kane actually came to one of the churches here in Minnesota. I was able to go hear her speak, who runs A21 campaign. I know that Matu is also out of Minnesota, and he's going to be at the Olympic Games. So just really finding ways to get involved and invested, I think, are the best ways that we can fight it. But again, I think it can really begin with the church, and I think that we have an obligation. Yeah, talking about the church, because even the record shows from the Bible that the first person trafficked was Joseph by his brothers. Yep. It was sold twice. Yep. Yep. So, and I think we have an obligation. I mean, then it's written in when Jesus came. He came to undo those things, to turn that back, so that all people, he came to value all people. And sure, that will manifest itself differently when we get to different questions. But this question, it's undeniable. We have to value all people and all victims. That's true. Thank you so much for your time today. We are really grateful, and thank you for the wonderful information that you've given to us. And I hope that the public make good use of this and start helping one another and start looking, you know, inward in the community, in the neighborhood, and also for the church to stand up, to start doing something in the community. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
A federal judge sentenced a Portland pimp to 20 years in prison for his role in pushing a 13-year-old Salem runaway into prostitution. He met his young victim, now 15, when she ran away from her Salem home in October 2009 and made her way to Portland with a friend. There, he put the girls up in a motel and bought them clothes, condoms, and high-heeled shoes. He nicknamed his victim Diamond and advertised her as an escort in Exotic magazine, according to the court records. In the United Arab Emirates, 5 men have been jailed for 5 years each for conspiring with a travel agent in their homeland, forcing a woman into prostitution in Dubai. The Dubai court of first instance convicted the 5 Bangladeshi men of forming a group for human trafficking and selling a 21-year-old Bangladeshi woman to a police informant to work as a prostitute. Prosecutors said the accused conspired with a travel agent in Bangladesh and flew in the woman to work as a tailor in Dubai. A Vancouver man is charged with trafficking girls as young as 14 for the purpose of forcing them into prostitution. He is charged with 4 counts of trafficking in persons under the age of 18 and 4 counts of living off the avails of a juvenile while using, threatening to use, or attempting to use violence. When he was first arrested, the 2 underage females were found in the house, and at that time he was charged with 2 counts of living off the avails of prostitution of a juvenile. Trafficking of children in Africa to be used as human blood rituals is a common occurrence in the UK, where reportedly at least 400 African children over a period of just 4 years have been caught up in this cultural practice. This means the means by which these children are brought into the UK is unknown to British authorities, but the reason why they are being smuggled is clear and disturbing. Anti-trafficking authorities point to the practice of juju. The West African religion uses a form of witchcraft through the use of objects imbued with supernatural powers, and it is believed that this is the source of the need of children. A trafficker can belong to any class or social group of people.
Hello kids at home, my name is Jaden Sargent and I am taking a stand against human trafficking. I would like you to take a stand with me by making or drawing a flag of your country and sending it in with a parent or guardian's approval. Thank you and good night.
Okay. This is the Advocate Excellence Award segment, and the advocate nominated today is Joseph Baseko. I nominated Joseph because Joseph was the taxi driver that helped me. He was the one that made me to know that a police officer had been called against me without me even knowing. And Joseph was the first person to tell me about battered women's shelter. And it did not stop there, but he went ahead to keep checking on me and my son. And I'm so grateful for Joseph, because if he wasn't there that fateful morning, I might be in jail today and not have the second chance to live and be able to share my story to help others. So I'm really grateful to Joseph. Joseph, I hope that this will encourage you to do more as you do your work as a taxi driver and meet different people, either man or woman and children, in your way, to direct them if you think that they might be victims of human trafficking or even domestic abuse. Thank you, and God bless you. We love you here.
Come with me to a faraway place. I'll mend all your fears and dry all your tears. I'll take you along a winding path. It will take us to somewhere we'll never turn back. You'll heal from the pain that's been laid upon you. Just feel the sun that's trying to shine through. Don't give up now. Life will get better. Just take my hand and you'll understand that you're not alone, and I'm here by your side. You can hold on to me and I'll help you break free. Let's tear through this wall. It's been black in you. There's a brand new side that's waiting just for you. You've got what it takes, so find the strength that's inside of you and let it carry you through. So come with me to a faraway place. I'll mend all your fears and dry all your tears. It's not your fault. Thank you.
This candle in honor of victims who have lost their lives as a result of human trafficking, and we hope that their soul rests in perfect peace. You've heard it. Siri went to India and she worked with women, including some victims who contracted HIV. You can imagine your loved one contracting HIV through a crime committed against them. It is sickening. We need to really do something about it. And I hope that we will keep using this avenue to educate one another so that we can prevent those kind of people from becoming victims among us and contracting a disease that they are going to live with for the rest of their lives, or even shorten their lifespan. We thank you for watching tonight, and I want to thank my crew. They are very wonderful people that help me. Without them, you and I cannot have this show. So I'm really grateful to my crew. Thank you all, and see you next time. We hope that you go onto imprisonshow.com for more information. Please send us your nominations for Advocate Excellence Award. Go onto the website, fill out forms, and send us flags. Parents, we're begging you to please encourage your children by supporting them to send in their flags to stand against human trafficking. Those girls were trafficked at the age of 14 years old. Please, we need to educate our children. Let them support by sending in their flag to learn more about human trafficking. And if you have any event that you want the whole world to know about, please contact us at imprisonshow.com. Thank you, and God bless you. Bye-bye. How you doing? What is it really about?
Well, thank you. That is, my name's Joyce. So back in '95, I started a ministry. I'm a full-time minister, as well as a Bible teacher, and I also just had on my heart to start an umbrella ministry. And but the other ministry is called The Beauty of Holiness, which is really the ministry to the girls, and that's Psalm 96, verse 9, and it has to do with sharing the love of Jesus with the girls of the night, and of course some men too, but getting into the hearts of the girls and putting faith in them that they can believe God to have a better life than what they're doing. Yeah.
So when did you start rescuing the girls?
In 2004, I was working as a healing teacher, and I felt like the Lord said, go to Spain and start a Bible school. Well, in the process of finding the connection, and then when I arrived there, we're driving down from Madrid to the other side, Alicante, and I saw the girls under the streetlight, and they were kind of advertising. I said, well, aren't we going to stop and help them? And, you know, the evangelistic spirit in me was coming out. So it really wasn't until '07 that I really started calling them on the phone. In Spain, there's a huge English newspaper that the girls advertise, and they say where they live and their phone number and their charge and stuff. So I would call them up and say, I'm not calling you for your services, but I'd like to take you out for coffee. I have something very important to tell you. So in that, I started with two appointments. I was real excited. I'll never forget that day. And actually, the first person that met me with coffee ended up being a man. He was dressed as a woman. So we have those things out there too. So it's just not people that are trafficked from these other nations, but it's people that just don't have purpose in life. They need money, they're lost emotionally and all these other things. And but the human trafficking is huge in Europe.
Prison Show is a show set out to educate the public about human trafficking. Human trafficking is the modern-day slavery that is taking the lives of many of our loved ones. In every country across the world, there is human trafficking going on. And in fact, the United Nations reported that over 2 million victims are trafficked around the world. Half of those are children. You can imagine your child being trafficked. That is why we have brought to you this show to educate the public about human trafficking. We need to learn about what it is so that we can prevent ourselves and our loved ones from human trafficking. This show brings about various people who are advocating or rescuing or doing something about human trafficking. So you get to meet them during our interview segment. And we also have like a news report segment, which is our report segment. We talk about news or reports of human trafficking in different countries around the world. We also have the kids segment. As you know, 50% of victims are children. So we have the kids segment called Kids Against Human Trafficking, using the flag of their country to stand against human trafficking. Kids just need to make a flag or draw one and send it to us at imprisonshow.com. We also have the Advocate Excellence Award. It's an award to appreciate those advocates working day and night with victims. It is overwhelming if you have to work with one victim, let alone working with many victims. So we thought we should appreciate these advocates who are behind the scenes, working hard to help victims become survivors, move on with their life, and be involved in the society and live as normal human beings again. So we encourage you, victims and survivors out there, to go on the website imprisonshow.com to nominate your advocate for the Advocate Excellence Award. Mind you, your advocate could be a taxi driver. It could be a preacher like Reverend Joyce. It could be your neighbor. It could be an advocate working at the battered women's shelter. It could even be a nurse. It could be a doctor. Anyone who has impacted your life, who has helped you to regain your freedom, can be your advocate. We also have tributes to victims and survivors of human trafficking. Especially, it touches our heart for those who have lost their lives as a result of human trafficking. So we have a candlelight for them on this show, and we have a tribute song. And in this segment, we encourage you, the general public, to send in poems, letters, or even your own original song for victims and survivors of human trafficking. Thank you.